Hello everybody, this is Roadblock, and today's video is going to be a little bit longer, and it is going to focus around Clan Boss. So I've actually recorded this video like 3 times now, um, and just a little bit of backstory in it. So I am the leader of my clan. It's called Roadblocks Vanguard, and I've been noticing that a lot of players have been doing Clan Boss easy and normal when their accounts are well beyond that. So on my free to play account, which is an experimental account, so I can get a better understanding of what it means to play free to play, so that I can better judge what the free to play players in my clan are capable of doing. I feel guilty being like, hey, you need to get 1,000,000 points in Clan v Clan, and they're like, well, I'm free to play. Like I don't have like I can't get 1,000,000 points, right? And I'm not. I don't actually ask anyone to get 1,000,000 points. It's just an example. Um, but I on that free to play account, I'm done with easy. I no longer need to farm easy. I can one key normal. As you can see here on that account, I only have one level 60. Well, sorry. Well, I've been done with normal for a while with only one level 60. This is technically a 6 star. He's not 60 yet. He's 59 right now. This was done before he leveled up. Um, and you can see that I'm able to 3 key hard, but this is going to be more likely a 2 key tomorrow. But as you can see, there are a lot of people that have like multiple legendaries and are burning 2 keys down here in hard, um, which they probably don't need to be doing. There's probably some issues with their account. And so at first I was like angry about it. And then later on, I was like, all right, instead of being angry, why don't I try and help people understand kind of where they're falling short? Okay. So that is what the intent of this video is. This is going to be a complete coverage of Clan Boss, what it means, how to do it. I might say some stuff that you already know. I do apologize for that, but the whole purpose of this is 100% to help newer players and some players that have been around for a while that just don't understand where their accounts should be. So, first thing I want to point out is that legendaries are not always the answer. And what I mean by that is if we come down here to normal, you can see here's a team right here of 5 legendaries. It did 9.8 million, which is well enough, more than enough to kill normal. But if you have a 5 legendary team, and some of these are pretty decent legendaries per clan boss, and you're only doing 9.83 million, that tells me that there's something wrong with either your speeds or your gear. There's a lot of things that could be going wrong here. A team like this should be putting up way more numbers. I'm not saying like anything crazy, but on normal, they should be putting up more numbers than that. You can see I did 6 million with a level 60 and a level 51. Um, they have 5 level 60s, all fully ascended. One of them even has blessings, and they're only doing 9.83 million. By the way, when I got blessings with on my Sun Wukong recently, if you look at my last run, you'll see I have a blessing here, and I put 18.8 million up. I went into that at 11.63 million. So I did like 7 million on this one key, 8 million on this key, something like that. Or no, more than that. It doesn't really matter. You guys can do the math, but my point stands that if I'm able to put these numbers up on hard with my team, a team that is this stacked should be able to do the same. So that's kind of the point of this video. So first things first, we're going to talk about how the clan boss works. So if we look at the chests, there are 4 chests that you can get. To get the high, so each chest has rewards at different levels, right? So the rewards here are really bad. This is the worst possible chest you can get. It's the smallest potions, the lowest amount of silver, only an ancient shard with a very low percentage. And then if you look at, we're looking at 3-star gear and 4-star gear. And I think those are rares. So then if we go up to the highest level, you'll see that we have the the greater. I think these are graders. You also get chances for rare books. You get chances for brews. Still in ancient shards, more silver this time, and then better gear. Some of which this is 5-star gear, but not. But it's common gear, meaning it's the gray gear, the stuff that you get out of campaign most of the time. That's below the green gear, the uncommon gear. So that's on easy. So on easy, the best case scenario would be getting an ancient shard or a rare book. Okay. So then we go to normal. Let's look at the max chest there. Huge difference. Huge difference. You get a chance for a void shard and now an epic skill tome as well as green 5-star gear and so just and legendary 4-star, so just better gear in general. Okay. And then we go up to hard, and same thing. You see that we're getting more gear, better numbers of items, better tomes and everything. So when you come up, you go to brutal, slightly better. You'll see that now we're narrowing down the range, so you're only getting 5-star gear in brutal. And then we come to nightmare. Now this is the big change. This is the biggest change of all. In fact, what was brutal max? Yeah, still only an epic tome. When you come to Nightmare and you look at the ultimate chest, you can get a sacred shard and a legendary book. Okay? Now I farm Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare daily. You'll see this is my main account. On Nightmare, I did 89.91 million. On Ultra Nightmare, where I spend the remainder of my keys, I do 152.4. I did 152.48. Good news is everyone else has used their keys and we cleared them. A quick thing about gear. This is how it works. If you did enough to earn a chest at any level of this, like say you did 9,792,000 damage, just barely enough to get this bottom chest, right? But you did it, and we're in Nightmare, okay? If the boss is dead, meaning that all of the HP is gone, you will get 2 of these Guardian chests, okay? And that's the same thing with Ultra Nightmare. So I spend 1 key on Nightmare, and then my remainder keys in Ultra Nightmare. As a clan, we consistently kill Nightmare. Ultra Nightmare requires the commitment of several of our stronger players, myself included, putting in a lot more keys to be able to completely down it so that we can get double chests. So that means Mards here did 91.51 million. That's enough for the max chest. He will get 2 of the max chests in Ultra Nightmare. If we look at Nightmare, Zaragevna did 3 million. That's not enough for a chest. He won't get any chest. You have to be able to do enough to earn a chest to get 2 of those chests, even if we kill it. This probably goes without saying, but the clan boss does have unlimited HP. Like, you can still do it after it's been killed. Like, when this is the infinity symbol, you can still go do it. Okay? Savage Host here is a great example. You need to do 9 million minimum. He did 10 million. He will get 2 of these Guardian chests. Now, these Guardian chests are still very good. This is good gear, epic books, void shards. That's good stuff to get. I'm sure you're thinking, well, the chances to get them are probably very low. I disagree. I currently have 5 Sacred Shards on my account. I have not bought any since the most recent Sacred Shard event. So these are all from either events. Well, I think 1 is from an event, and I think 4 are from Clan Boss. So it does matter, and you need to be working. I am of the opinion that the first priority when you start raid, and I say this on my free-to-play account all the time, your first priority should be to focus on getting as high as you can in Clan Boss. Now, you may reach a certain breaking point around the hard, brutal stages where it's like, okay, with what I have right now, I cannot go any further. And that's when you can start focusing elsewhere in the game until you get the champions necessary to succeed. But this boss, Demon Lord Clan Boss, has the best rewards in the entire game. It is the only place where you can consistently get sacred shards and legendary books. And those are the most important, valuable resources that you can get in this game. Okay? So, please take what I'm about to say very seriously because it really can impact you on your account. Um, Now, where do I want to start next? Let's talk about types of teams. So there's generally two types of teams. There's probably more finite teams, but the basic ones that most people work with are, well, I mean, either way, whatever team you have, they have to get put into one of these two categories. There is a killable team and there is an unkillable team. So what an unkillable team, which is what I run, means is that this is Demitha, okay? So Demitha places block damage, and we'll go look at it just so you guys, to be completely clear with you guys. So if we go look at my team, where are you hiding? There she is. So she puts block damage buff on all allies for 1 turn, okay? So the way my team is set up, she will take a turn immediately before the clan boss takes his. It's what's called a speed tune, meaning that my speeds of my characters are precisely selected so that Demitha will be the last person to go before the clan boss ever takes a turn. So there are calculators out there. The most people use Deadwood Jedi's calculator. That's the one I use. But these calculators will allow you to plan out your speeds so that this will be effective every single time. All right. I want to point out a couple things about my team. I only have 1 legendary in my team. And for the record, this team can be done, as you can see right here, with a Deacon Armstrong instead of a Fushan. Okay? So you could run an all epic and 1 rare team. Now, there are several crucial pieces to this team. Demitha, of course, because she brings block damage. Seeker, because he brings really good speed boosting. And he has a grant a second extra turn. That's the word. Seeker gets an extra turn. And then Eris brings a cleanse and a speed buff to the whole team. Now, Farrakhan is my DPS slot. This can be occupied by most characters in the game, but it's important to note that you don't want to use a character that could screw up your speed tune. So that means you don't want to bring somebody who could accidentally boost the speeds of your allies and therefore make them go faster and therefore screw everything up and they will die. Now, when you run, the main reason Fushan is in this team is for the speed lead, which is this aura, the speed aura. And that's why Deacon Armstrong brings 1 as well. It's not as good as Fushan, so you'll need higher speeds, but he is a suitable replacement. The great thing about Fushan is that he also brings the smite blessing. I forget what it's officially called. I'll remember it later, but we'll talk about blessings later. But for right now, this isn't an unkillable team. We're just talking about the concepts. I'll go into more depth later. A killable team is any team that ultimately dies. Now, to be clear, unkillable teams only go until 50 turns, at which point the clan boss will ignore unkillable and block damage concepts. So no matter what, my team dies every time at turn 50. Okay? But killable teams can actually keep going, and it sounds counterintuitive, but if you build a killable team, that just means that you don't run block damage or unkillable. Okay? It means that you utilize other factors like ally protection, guardian gear, other things that make it so that your team does not immediately die. Or not immediately. They don't die very quickly. And these teams commonly can go beyond turn 50. That's one of their benefits. They're much harder to build because it requires a much larger gear requirement and very specific characters. You do still need to speed tune these teams as well. So an example of that here is Bonk's team. He has no unkillable champions in it, but he has a very good healer in Marishka, and Korogar Deathbell brings Ally Protect, right? And so I'll be honest, I don't know what I think this is Snick Track. I don't know what he does. Mishinaki brings a lot of damage, and so does Newt. So you'll see that he's two keying at 113, so he's doing a little bit less than me, but he is 100. What would it be? 113 divided by 2 would be like 60 something a key. So he has to two key it. I can one key it right now. But I again will still spend my keys in here just so we kill it completely. For the sake of the video, I want to spend my key on Brutal to help other people in this difficulty get multiple chests. But for the sake of the video, I do have a key ready to go, and I'm going to spend that on Ultra Nightmare, just so you can see the kind of numbers my team put out. There's no necessary. The only advantage between either two options is that unkillable teams are easier to achieve. They have high speed requirements, but they're just generally easier to understand and build. Um, and there are templates for these types of teams. So on Deadwood Jedi, on unkillable speed tunes, I'm trying to find mine. Let me see if I can just find it. Killable. There it is. All right, so this is the team that I run. This is on Deadwood Jedi's site. It's called Myth-Fu. So what that means is you can see here, it tells me Demitha, Eris, Fushan, and Seeker. All those champions are in there, and then you'll see my DPS is replaceable. A couple of notes on unkillable teams. You cannot adjust the speeds of these champions. You'll see Demitha can only be 290 or 291. That is it. Eris has a larger gap. The team will work, but they do have a note in here that her true speed, I'm not going to get into speed tunes in depth here, but true speed basically means her actual speed considering everything. That means like auras from Fushan, increased speed being up at all times, that kind of stuff. So the calculators take that into account. Her true speed needs to be 282.90 in order to make it affinity friendly. We'll talk about affinities here in a second. Then you need Fushan Seeker. The DPS can be anybody. Now, I used to run one of my favorite DPSs in that slot, which was Mishinaki. However, Mishinaki is good everywhere in the game, and that speed of 168 to 169 is very slow compared to the speed that you would want people to be at for end game content. So I swapped him out for Farrakhan the Fat and saw great results. I did have to rework my team a little bit, but it has been a huge benefit to me because none of these characters I really use anywhere else in the game except for Demitha, but she's very fast in this build, and that's fine with me. I use her very sparingly in other content, and so and I don't need to change her speed for that content. So that's unkillable. For a killable team, it's basically just running your same old team. My previous killable team was Mishinaki, Ultimate Death Knight, Rector Drath, who eventually got replaced by Pythion, and Nethril, who brings poisons on the A1, and then I want to say like Apothecary or something, just to keep speeding up my team. It was kind of a weird team what I was running, but no. I used Longbeard for a while, and then I swapped Longbeard out for Valkyrie because Longbeard does ally attack. So all my Nethril would apply more poisons because that's on his A1, and Mishinaki would apply more HP burns because that's on his A1. But I replaced him with Valkyrie because Valkyrie would bring shields and counterattack, so they would still get those extra A1s, but they would gain survivability with it as well. So it was a killable team. It could almost one key Nightmare, but never quite got there before I unlocked unkillable. Okay. Um, Unkillable is not something you're going to achieve day one, so don't go out of your way trying to target unkillable. There's several different compositions of unkillable teams. If we look at real quick, you can see like double man-eater teams. So this is a double man-eater team. We have one here and one here. This is an unkillable team. This is a team that uses Taragi the Frog, which is a ally protect champion. Mards' team is a killable team that is just stacked. He's got Kyoku, Acrisia that does damage reduction, one of the best healers in the game, and Siphi. Tons of poisons. Cardiel, who has passive, like he brings a lot of healing, and he's just a really strong champion in general. Plus Revive on Death, all kinds of different benefits there. So this is just a really, really strong team. These are just extremely good champions. All right, let's talk about debuffs now. All right, so this is hellhades.com. This is a list of buffs and debuffs. So what are debuffs that you're looking for in Clan Boss? So one thing that's important to note is there are certain debuffs that you want. Decreased defense, decreased speed is good to have, but it's one of the lesser. It's important, very valuable, but there are other buffs that may take precedence. So, decreased defense means that you'll do more damage to the boss. It decreases their defense by 60% with the highest level, right? So you just do flat out more damage to the boss. This is very important overall. HP burn will do, every time they take a turn, 3% of their respective max HP. So Clan Boss has a lot of HP, therefore HP burn does a lot of damage. This is, again, very important. I don't have it memorized exactly how much HP burn does to Clan Boss, but I want to say it's like 50,000 and poisons do 25,000, but please don't quote me on that. That is not completely accurate. Leech is kind of valuable to keep champions alive in the early game, but this is probably one that you don't have to chase after. Poison sensitivity is another one that will increase the damage that poison does, which is another very, very powerful way to do damage to the Clan Boss. Then we can look at weaken. Again, weaken increases the damage they take by 15 to 25 or 25%, depending on which skill is active. And then poisons. Did I really scroll past it like 100 times? Where? There it is, poisons. So there's two types of poison. There's what people call small poison and big poison. Small poison does 2.5%. Big poison does 5% of their max HP. So again, we're talking about percentages of damage. So those are going to equate to large amounts of damage on a boss that has an insane amount of HP. Okay, now they are capped, or at least controlled. So that's why I'm saying I know that it's a set amount that you'll see tick every now and then. I guess since we already beat Ultra Nightmare, I can show you my team in motion. Because I do run poisons, I do run HP burns, and then I also run the blessing, which I am going to find out what that is called right now because it is eluding me and it's frustrating me. So the blessing, brimstone, that's what it's called. Okay. So then let's go talk buffs as well. So what buffs do you want to have on your team? Well, ally protection makes your team take 25 or 50% less damage, and that would be on the champion that casted the spell. It would be spread out. We talked about block damage. The other one would be unkillable. Unkillable means you can't go below 1 HP. So while block damage blocks all damage, unkillable, you will just get very, very low HP, but you will still live. In a killable team, you'd want to consider Strengthen. That decreases damage up to 25% with the larger version. Perfect Veil as well, because Perfect Veil will reduce the damage you take by 15%. And then there are passives that you want to consider as well. Shields are another big thing. Obviously, shields are just extra HP, so if the boss does damage to shields, he's not doing damage to your champions, therefore not killing them. Now, the boss can only have 10 debuffs, and this is important when you're considering things like poisons and HP burn. That's one of the reasons I like to bring both a poisoner and an HP burner, is that HP burn does do more damage than poisons. on Clan Boss. However, you can have more poisons than you can have. You can only have 1 HP burn on at a time. And why this is important is because you don't want to overload on poison. So if you're bringing 3 poison champions, right? Um, and you're trying to land decreased defense, you're trying to land. Oh, we didn't talk about decreased attack, but decreased attack, this means the boss won't hurt your champions as much, okay? But you're trying to land decreased attack, you're trying to land decreased defense, you're trying to land maybe decreased speed, HP burn, but you have 10 poisons across him, both little and big. They're not all going to land. So you do need to take that into consideration. Just bringing 5 poison champs isn't really going to kill the boss any any faster. Um, the other thing I want to talk about is blessings, which I just kind of alluded to here a second ago. So if we look at my team real quick, we will see that on Demon Lord, I am bringing 1 Brimstone. I'll explain this one in a second. I don't know what it's called. And then 3 Phantom Touches. Okay? Now, when it comes to Brimstone, we'll go over what Brimstone does. So the first level of Brimstone has a 15% chance of placing a Smite debuff. Smite debuff will do damage equal to 25% of the affected champion's max HP. For Clan Boss, it does 250,000 damage when it triggers. It will only trigger on 2 of his attacks. I don't think it triggers on the stun, but I'm not 100% on that. So that's a lot of damage. Now, just to put things in perspective for you guys a little bit, if we look at my free-to-play team, so on normal, I did 6 million. When I brought in then that was before I had Brimstone on my Sun Wukong. And then earlier today, I got Brimstone on Sun Wukong. I put it on him, and I did like 7 million on a higher difficulty level. So these are very important things to keep in mind. Brimstone, if you have a legendary champion, Brimstone is what you want. And it's okay to have more than 1 Brimstone. A lot of times you'll see that they say, oh, only bring 1 Brimstone. That is true, but only if you have a 6-star Brimstone. So if we go back and we look at the effect, it only has a 15% chance of placing that. Now, at 6 stars, it's 100%. But at 1 star, it is only a 15% chance. That's a problem. So you want all your champions, if they're only 1 or 2 stars or 3 stars, you want all of them bringing Brimstone. If we look at one of my clan members in here, look at Mards. Brimstone, 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 right? All of them are bringing Brimstone. Siphi's probably using this to clear for Hydra, which is not the subject of this video. And then this just increases the speeds overall from the aura that, the decreased defense aura that Kyoku must be putting out, because she's the lead and he's running that ability. That could also be a blessing that they use for other content. But it's okay to have Brimstone on multiple characters. Other blessings that you're going to want to have on your characters will be, we'll just use him as an example again. So if you don't understand blessings, you can only use the purple or blue. So you can use any of them on a legendary champion, only the purple and the blue ones on an epic champion, and only the blue ones on a rare champion. Okay? So you want to get the max value that you can. So what I run on my Demitha is Cruelty. Decreases the target defense by 1% per hit, up to 10% for champions and up to 5% for bosses. So against Clan Boss, who's obviously a boss, it's in his name, you can get up to 5% damage reduction or defense reduction. You'll see it improves the higher you level it up. Now, I put this on my Demitha because my Demitha is not built for doing damage, and she does take a lot of turns because she's very fast. So because of that, she will do this ability quite often. She only needs, I think she's up to this level. So she only needs 10 turns to get 10% damage reduction on the boss for the entire fight. This lasts for a whole round until the end of the round. All clan boss is 1 round. Turns are what comprise a round, but the whole of clan boss is 1 round of fighting with up to 50 turns in an unkillable team. Okay, I hope that makes sense for you guys. So this decreased defense will be on the boss for the entirety of the fight. So then the other thing I use is Phantom Touch. This is just straight bonus damage when they take turns. Um, Similarly, it has percent chances to land, just like um, Brimstone does. It does less damage than Brimstone, but still great damage. If it's a rare champion, Phantom Touch you're 100% using. If you're running a epic champion, then you can consider cruelty, but you don't want to have cruelty on all of your epic champions. There's no value there. You'll get that 10% damage decrease faster, but after you get that, or 5% or 10% or 15, whatever blessing you have, but at a certain point, then you don't get any value of that ability at all. That's why it's great on my Demytha, because she's not a damage dealer anyways, but my other champions are all running Phantom Touch because they're doing damage. And they're all epics. There's no better damage dealing epic blessing. Um, Heaven Cast doesn't do anything. This is ignoring resistance. That's irrelevant for Clan Boss. Clan Boss has low resistance. If you can't hit the accuracy target that you're looking for to apply your debuffs, then you're building your champions wrong. Just plain and simple. And so Brimstone is very valuable. Now, Brimstone is a little weaker because you do need to have accuracy to land it, but I'm able to land it on my Sun Wukong, who has 50 accuracy. Granted, that's at hard difficulty, but the point still stands. You can find the accuracy limitations on things like Hell Hades or just Google it so that you know what you need to be at. But you want to make sure you're hitting those accuracy levels so these effects do land. Everything from poisons, HP burns, decreased defense, all of that requires accuracy in order to land. So blessings are a big factor. If we look at my own clan, and I apologize for calling some of you guys out, but you'll see that some players are running things like polymorph, or I think this is the poison debuff. I think what's cruelty look like? Where's my team? Yeah, this is cruelty. So I think this is the one that increases poisons, but that only works in PvP. And it's just a bad talent in general, so you shouldn't be picking that. I know I saw some people that were running like here. I think Robar is his name, should be running not Phantom Touch, but should be running Brimstone, especially at a 3-star. That's going to give you a higher percent chance than I think what we were just looking at, like a 25 or 30% chance to land it. You could make a consideration because this isn't really a damage dealing champion, you could make a consideration for cruelty, which would decrease the defense of the boss. So what have we talked about? We've talked about blessings. We've talked about the 2 types of teams. We've talked about debuffs briefly. We'll go into more of that here in a second. The other thing that needs to be talked about is masteries. Now, there's very intricate things that need to be considered when you're dealing with an unkillable team. You want to make sure you're doing masteries that don't screw up your speed tune. So those are going to be masteries like rapid response, where this would increase turn meter. You don't want that. And then there's Cycle of Violence, I think it is. It's okay on Fushan, but for other champions like a Demytha or an Eris, that will screw up your speed tune because all those things need to be considered. If he uses his A3 or A2 an extra turn, that doesn't ruin the run. Like, he's not going to ruin the run with that ability. But other champions, that can ruin the run. Same thing with sometimes Cycle of Magic is the same way. You'll leave a increased speed on your allies for too long, and it screws up the speed tune. All of these are things that need to be considered. So just do a little bit of research when you're building your unkillable teams, because I don't want to go too much into masteries. The one thing I wanted to touch on masteries is War Master. So this is a very, very important mastery that you need to have Um, War Master or Giant Slayer. But War Master you want to have on anybody that has 2 or fewer A1 attacks. You want to have Giant Slayer on anyone that has 3 or more A1 attacks. For anybody that doesn't understand, A1 attacks is your default ability. This is A1, this is A2, this is A3, just as an example. This is A1, this is A2, this is A3, this is a passive. Do I have anybody that has a Ultimate Death Knight? Yeah. A1, A2, A3. Oh, he has 2 passives, yeah. So, um, yeah, I don't have anybody that has anything more than an A3, at least not that I can find it quickly. I don't want to slow down the video. So, the reason that those matter is because, nope. Giant Slayer does less percent of max HP, but it works best with multi-hitters, whereas War Master works best on, it does more damage, but works best with a single target hitter because it can only occur once per skill. Okay? Now, War Master does a lot of damage and it has a high percent chance to hit. So, another thing that happened today, if you go watch my free to play, I unlocked War Master on my Deacon Armstrong today, or it may have been yesterday, but I unlocked it on him. And in doing so, I was able to do I so much more damage just off those War Master procs. It put him from like 200,000 damage to over 1 million damage. Because again, we're dealing with percent based damage, which is based around the it was based around the health. I think it's based around the health of the target. Let's just to be sure. I always want to be sure. 10% of the champion's max HP, or 4% in when you're doing bosses. Okay, so again, we're talking about HP based damage, maximum HP based damage, so it stacks up very quickly over time. All right, so we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about unkillable teams versus killable teams. We've talked about poisons, or we talked. I'm sorry, we talked about briefly about debuffs. We talked about blessings, and different concepts. Now, I do want to point out, why am I able, so my free to play account is like 15 16 days old now. How am I able to have progressed so far that I no longer need to farm easy, and only I was done with easy in 9 days? Okay. And I'm able to consistently farm normal, hard. I'm probably going to be done with normal tomorrow. I will probably 2-key hard and put my remaining keys into brutal and try and get one of these chests. Okay, so how am I advancing so quickly when I only have 2 level 60 characters? Well, a 60 and like a 59 right now. Okay, so how am I able to do that? One thing is because I'm bringing poisons. So if we look at my team, my Kale was my first 60 because he brings poisons. He brings both the strong poisons and the weak poisons. So on his I'm not gonna be able to find my Kale fast enough on that, so we'll go here. Um, on his A3, he brings the 5% poisons, the big poisons, right? And on his basic attack, he brings the little poisons. Now I still have him using his big hit here because this does do a lot of damage, and I usually have too many debuffs anyways. We'll talk about possibly turning off. Well, we'll talk about turning off abilities in a second, but poisons do so much damage, and I picked Kale specifically because he does so much damage early on. I also bring a decreased defense champion from Sacred Order, which is Deacon Armstrong. So he boosts the speed of my team, gets an extra turn, and then decreases the defense of the boss. Then I bring an increase attack champion, which is in a rare that is level 40. We'll look at the team again here. Well, let me show you what she does, and then I'll confirm for you that what I'm saying is true. So the rare that I bring is Spirit Host. She brings increase attack, which increases the damage of my champions by 50%. Yes, she does die, but very valuable damage nonetheless. And then I bring Eris, who I'm going to keep for speed tunes, but right now she's really not doing much other than giving my team increased speed and doing damage to the boss. And we'll talk about she's in my main team and I built her a certain way, and we'll talk about that here in this right now. Actually, let's go over it now. So if we go over my team, Fu Shan, nothing too crazy. Notice that he does have perception and speed, but nothing too crazy. You know, no 4-star, no four piece sets or anything like that. Um, you know, here's his stats. You want 100% crit rate. He does 184% crit damage. You'll see his accuracy is 295, so that he can land those abilities on Ultra Nightmare, because much higher resistance and pretty high attack. But you know, he's not like super insane build or anything like that. At least not in my eyes. So then we come down and we look at Demitha. So Demitha is not crit capped. Her crit damage is high, but that's just happenstance. That's not anything in particular. Her speed is insane. 290 speed. Again, to achieve an unkillable team is not easy. It's easier than doing killable teams because the gear requirements are still lower, but you still need to have really high speeds. Okay. So for Seeker, he is crit capped 102, 192% crit damage. He does a ton of damage for me, which is kind of a sleeper. He's does a surprising amount of damage um, for me. Farrakhan is the same way. Farrakhan does a surprising amount of damage. So he is not completely crit rate. Okay. Just so you guys know, he's not completely crit capped. But he still does the amount of damage, and I don't want to mess with his gear because I don't want to screw up his speed. He's at 170 speed. High crit damage, 227 crit damage. Is he? Yeah, he's an attack champion. So his attacks are based on his damage is based on attacks. He does get added crit rate for this ability. Oh, it doesn't even apply to him. So yeah, but I don't um if he doesn't hit a crit, it doesn't end my, run. 98% is okay. It's not perfect. I would love to see it higher, but it's hard to get those perfect tunes, right? And it works. The team works, so I don't bother to mess with it at all. And then we can look at Eris, who has some very specific kind of special features about her. So if we look at Eris, Eris has this passive. She counterattacks whenever the ally is attacked. This is very valuable anywhere, but especially in Clan Boss, because when the Clan Boss does his AoE, she automatically attacks. So I have her built in a toxic set. So what this set does is it has a 75% chance to place a small poison every time she attacks. So she stacks up a lot of small poisons on the boss, increasing her damage output. She is not crit rate capped. We don't really care about her crit damage. This is just happenstance, but she is built very fast at 261 speed. She needs to be at that speed in order to make this affinity friendly. That's one thing we haven't touched on that I'm remembering now I wanted to go over. Every day the boss starts on void difficulty. However, at 50%, he will change to a random, you'll see it's magic here, but spirit here, affinity. This can affect a lot of things, including your speed tunes. So in my case, to have my speed tune correct for spirit affinity, which is my hardest one to achieve, I have to have Eris at that speed. If she's any slower, I will fail whenever it switches to spirit affinity. Okay. Um, Also, what's really interesting, if I was to do hard, I could potentially do less damage than a lot of these teams because my team will die so much faster. Because hard, the clan boss's speed gets too slow, and my speed tune doesn't work revolving around hard. So you do need different speed tunes depending on the difficulty that you're doing. But Brutal Nightmare and Ultra Nightmare are all the same. Again, I'm going to show you guys Ultra Nightmare simply so you can see that this works on the highest level difficulty possible. Okay. Um, It's gonna take too long. I'm trying to think about how I want to film this because I want to show you individually their abilities. I can just throw away the run. Um, so here's my proof. I wanted to make sure I could prove to you that this team works. If we look here, 152.48. If you divide that by two, 152.48 divided by 2. That's 76.24 million per run. The minimum needed for Ultra Nightmare is 70 million. So I can one key Ultra Nightmare. I've built this team to be able to one key Ultra Nightmare. Easy peasy. Okay. So I'm going to throw away this key, but we don't need it because we've already killed Ultra Nightmare. So I will now demonstrate to you my team. I think I've covered everything. We talked about affinities, how affinities change. So now we'll come in here, we'll do Ultra Nightmare, and I won't do Quick Battle, and I won't start on auto. I am going to start on auto. My speed tune has a very specific start, and I don't want to screw that up, so we're going to start on auto, and then I'll turn it off. I just want to wait until he takes his turn. Okay, there we go. So we'll put it on ×1 so you guys can see how much they do. You'll see we're getting 20k per hit from Seeker. That's a pretty good amount of damage, right? So we're happy to see that. There's Brimstone. 250,000 was done by Brimstone. You also notice there Eris did a counterattack that applied poisons. Brimstone is still applied here. I get decreased defense from both my Farrakhan and from my Fushan, but not a big deal. So she takes her turn. He comes in. He's weak on this affinity. He has a chance to get weak hits. 40,000 damage now that there's decreased defense and increased attack on my team. Farrakhan applies poisons and HP burns. So when the clan boss takes his turn, see all those numbers? 75,000, 50,000, 20,000, and the 250,000. That was the Brimstone. So all those numbers, those are the poisons ticking and the HP burns ticking. You'll see Farrakhan just does flat out really high raw damage. Here we are applying more poisons. And then Clan Boss is about to take his turn. So Demitha is so much faster. She applies the block damage. He took his turn. That was a visual bug, but he took his turn, and nobody died. Or nobody took damage, right? You guys saw that. So this is the ally attack portion. You'll see my Fushan hits for about 100k. It's easier with a Fushan, okay? Like I'm not, but you can do it with other speed aura champion leads. Even Demitha's hitting for 30k per hit. Also notice that the base damage is getting stronger as the time goes on because Demitha is reducing the defense of Clan Boss in general. Again, visual bug. I'm really sorry. This is really ineffective, but he did attack there, but we had our block damage up, so nobody took damage. You'll see we're already at 4 million, and we're on 4 turns. So we're averaging over 1 million per turn. We do more damage as the round goes on because of Demitha decreasing the defense with that blessing she has. Also notice that did not get a Phantom Touch proc. That did get a Phantom Touch proc. Or that could have been War Master. 25,000, 50,000, those numbers right there, those were the poisons and the HP burns. Okay, see those two numbers, those red numbers? He got a Phantom Touch proc and a War Master proc. That was War Master procs and then a Phantom Touch. Well, no, he doesn't have Phantom Touch. So what? I don't know what the other procs were for him. A lot of the people are attacking and stuff is getting stacked on top of each other. There we go. Again, so no proc there. Here's 2 procs there. That was Phantom Touch and War Master. She blocked damage. He hits. My Eris takes off the stun, and my Speed Tune can continue. Big hit. That's War Master proc. War Master proc, and he applied Smite, which we've already talked about. That's going to do 250,000 damage when the clan boss takes his turn. So I think I've kind of hit every beat that I wanted to hit here, but I just wanted to show you the value of these effects. So there's all that poison damage and the HP damage, and then of course again the brimstone damage. So I am gonna waste this key. It's sad. I hate to do it, but I think I've achieved what I was looking to show you guys. If we just look briefly out of I don't know how many turns that was, but you'll see that Demytha's not doing much damage. Farrakhan does a lot. Fushan does the most. My second highest damage is going to actually my Eris, and that's because of her poisons. My most damage is Fushan. So it goes Fushan, Eris, Farrakhan, Seeker in that order for damage. Eris just hasn't had time to generate as many of those poisons over the course of the fight. She's also negative affinity, so she actually might do less damage than Seeker may do because of the affinity difference. Let me just kind of rack my brain real quick and think if there's any other things that... Oh, let's talk about picking champions for Clan Boss. Now, I've shown you my team, right? I've shown you the value of my team. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're running... There are certain champions that are not going to do as much damage on Clan Boss as you think they are simply because they're legendaries. I see this quite a bit. Now, given the current state of my account, I have to use Sun Wukong. I don't have anybody else, right? But Sun Wukong is never going to be able to do as much damage as my... Okay, not never. Let's never say never. He hits hard, right? But the amount of gear that I would need to put on him and then also removing his usefulness from other areas of the game, it would be detrimental to the type of character that they are. So you want to bring someone that uses poisons like Kayle or brings HP burns, ideally, right? Or poison sensitivity, so those poisons do more damage. You also want to bring increased attack. You want to bring a decreased defense. Decrease speed if you can, and leech if you can, because you can heal quite a bit off of doing damage to those champions, especially when you get War Master procs, because those do proc leech, and you can heal greater HP. So if we look at a champion like Doom Priest, Doom Priest does bring a cleanse, which can take the stun off your champions if that's what you want, but their base damage is not going to be as much as what other champions I have out there, or other champions that you have options for. Rhonda is good for Clan Boss to an extent. However, I personally, this is my personal opinion, believe that Rhonda will get out damaged by other characters that could bring more to the team. Rhonda brings just damage. That's it. She's not locking down Clan Boss's abilities any. She gets to have multiple attacks because she has her passive where she can help people on their attack, but it's just base damage. So unless she's built like a beast, she's not going to do as much damage as, say, a Kayle bringing poisons. Early on. Early on, if I only had Rhonda, she would be in my team. But I don't think you guys should be building whole concepts around Rhonda. I will say this much, though. Genbo ain't the play. Okay? Genbo is a PvP nuker. He brings nothing but pure damage. He only buffs himself. He will hit hard, but he is not going to do as much damage with a lower gear requirement as somebody that brings poisons and other benefits like that. And I'm not trying to roast anybody. I'm just kind of talking in general here. If you are going to bring things like ally attackers or counterattack champions, like I brought Valkyrie, you want to make sure you're getting value out of champion A1s. So, for example, Kayle's A1 applies poisons. So if you get extra attacks with the Longbeard, you're going to do more damage. Longbeard also brings Weaken. You're going to do more damage. If you're bringing a 1-star legendary for clan boss, you want them to have brimstone. This doesn't do it. This reduces resistance so you could land a taunt or a decrease attack, but that's I mean, you need accuracy to land brimstone anyways, so you're just gonna have enough accuracy to land your debuffs. So heaven cast doesn't really do anything. And then I don't even know what this one is, but that needs to be phantom touch. Okay. Um and again, I'm not trying to single anybody out, I'm not trying to target anybody. I'm just coming up with ideas to talk about. Here's one too. Athel. Again, great starter champion, but she's not going to do as much damage to clan boss as some other champions that could apply poisons. Now, or even probably even Eris could out damage her in the right build, especially with toxic gear. So you want to consider those things. Who's bringing your increase attack? I don't know these champions off the top of my head and their kits, but if you could bring, for example, an increased attack champion. If we just want to compare, so this is on brutal difficulty. So on hard difficulty, I did 7 million with my team. I've got 2 level 40s, a 50 Sun Wukong, who does have Brimstone, and then a Kale and at the time, a level 56 Deacon Armstrong. We compare it to Chappie's build here. So, Ascended Deacon Armstrong. This is an okay pick. You could also go for Cruelty here. Ascended Kale and Athel, and an Ascended, I think Robar is his name. If this was Brimstone, you're going to get a lot more damage. These are fine, but consider maybe bringing an increased attack champion. I don't know. These might do it. They might do it. So don't get mad at me, guys. I don't have the champions memorized. And this video is pretty long, and I don't want to go look them up. But you want to bring benefit to your team. You want to make sure you're weakening the clan boss and you're strengthening your team. So all of these are things to consider. I feel like I've touched on pretty much everything that I wanted to comment on. Clan boss is the most important content in the game. On my free to play, this is my sole focus, 100%. I'm not looking anywhere else in the game. And I'm reaping the benefits of it. I'm reaping the rewards already. I've got plenty of rare books. I'm getting brews, getting the ascension potions. I don't think I've gotten a void yet, but I have gotten books and I have gotten ancient shards, and I've gotten really good gear. It's really difficult in the early stages to get good 4 and 5-star gear that's not from the campaign. So being able to get that stuff off Clan Boss can actually be very strong, even if it may not be the best end game gear in some cases. A lot of times it is pretty good. So I'm not knocking the gear. I'm just saying I don't use as much of it now as I used to use, right? So I feel like I've touched on every one of my points. I hope this helps you guys with understanding Clan Boss and achieving your goals on Clan Boss. You want to constantly be working on your team to make them stronger. If you're down here doing easy Clan Boss with a team this stacked, this is a waste of a key. So yes, Savage Ghost, you did 25.6 million, but you only needed to do 1 million, and the best reward that you're going to get out of this is a very, very low chance to get an ancient shard or a rare book. You have legendaries. I'm going to assume they're booked, but if they're not, you want these guys booked. Also, Molly Tankard ain't doing doo-doo for a Clan Boss run. I guess she has reflect damage, but really, you can't land a taunt on the Clan Boss. So I don't know that Molly's going to be that great of a champion on Clan Boss. Let me take a look real quick at my Molly. I'm curious of how people rate her on that. Reviews. Yeah, Demon Lord 3.3. She's rated pretty low for Demon Lord. Like what? Because the taunt doesn't do anything. She does reflect damage. She brings a revive, and then they get block damage. But block damaging one person doesn't do much. I guess she can hit hard if they're under HP burn, so you do have that going for you. And she does turn meter fill, so she's not terrible. I take back my she won't do doo-doo, but I have a feeling that you have better champions in your inventory. Like maybe your starter champion. Who was the build there? God, I'm getting into the weeds here. Sorry. Yeah, there's a better starter champion. Even Coldheart, there's percent damage is finicky with Clan Boss. Do a little bit of research on it, because I don't want to make this video too much longer than it already is. We're at an hour now. I really do hope this helps everybody. Please, please, please post in the comments if you have any questions about Clan Boss. Post in the comments if you have any questions about my free-to-play account. Check out my free-to-play account if you're looking for ways to speed up the start of your game in Raid Shadow Legends. And yeah, just let me know if you guys have any questions. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.